Thanks for stopping on our channel, which is dedicated to central heating. And as you can see, I've been doing this a long time. Whether you install or you have heating, hopefully my videos will make a difference, but please leave me a comment in the section below. Lights, action, camera, let's begin. When it comes to hot water, there's very little on YouTube to deal with that. We get most of the videos, mine as well, is all to do with that combi boiler or ordinary boiler systems, etc. But one of the biggest complaints people have about combis is that the water flow to the tap or to the bath is rubbish. The shower is brilliant, but the rest of it, they think, oh, this is a rubbish piece of equipment, which obviously it isn't. It's just correctly installed for the heating side, but incorrectly adapted for the water side. So I'm going to make a few videos all about maybe unvented cylinders, why they're so good, copper cylinders, tanks in the loft, why they are absolute rubbish. So I'll explain all the good bits and the bad bits. Well, no, there aren't any good bits, they're just bad bits because it's a rubbish system. So we're going to do that. I'm going to talk about water softeners, adapters, filters, and all the other bits and pieces that can change your life and make it much better and just bring it into the 21st century. So let's start the beginning of the water. It comes in from the street, through the garden and up into the house that you live in. Usually under the sink is the most popular place, but it could be in a small cupboard as you walk in. I've seen them there all over the place. But the question is, can you turn it off and on easily? Because that's important. If you can't, have you got somebody nearby, just in case you get a drip, drip, drip or something is wrong? Can you shout for help? Some of them you can have an electric one, so it's just an electric on-off switch and it'll shut off the stopcock. That could be a useful way out. But above all, what we want to do is to remove the old-fashioned stopcocks that you turn. And here's a picture of those. I don't like those, never have done. The ones that normally are fitted in Europe and have been for donkey's years is this lever type ones. So all you do is you pull it down a quarter turn, lift it up a quarter turn, and there you go, off, on. Very simple, very easy to use, and most people can cope with that. But please make sure that you can actually turn yours off and on easily. When you do these lever type valves, there's different colors. We've got blue for cold, red for hot, there's also black, there's also chrome and green and yellow. And here's our yellow one here, and that's reserved for gas engineers only. So if you do use that, make sure you put some insulating tape round to show it's either a hot pipe or a cold pipe, but not gas, because that's important. Also, when we've got an airing cupboard with a cylinder and tanks in the loft, they may have round ones. So here's a picture of the round one, and obviously they will fail because they seize up and snap. Again, find a registered plumber who belongs to an organisation of plumbers or a heating engineer who's also qualified, and ask them to replace these old red rubbishy things that have been there for years and probably seized up to one of the lever type ones. So there'll be one blue one and a red one, maybe a black or the green, as we said. So the green one looks like this one, and I'll show you a close-up picture of this. It's green because it's on the cold side. It could be blue, but there we are. We've just used the green in that respect. So that's the first thing that we need to isolate to make sure that it works. There's one under the sink, one in the cupboard, somewhere. Also, every single tap has to have its own on-off switch, and it looks like this. So this cold tap has got an on-off valve, and the hot tap here underneath the flexi. So is the toilet, so is the basin, so is the bath. Everywhere there's a water outlet, there must be an on-off valve. And this is one type of one that you can see here. This is another one that you will need a small screwdriver, so always put one handy by there somewhere so you don't have to rummage around, and you can quickly just turn the valve and stop the leak. This is important. There is a bylaw that specifies that you must have an isolator wherever the water leaves the tap or goes into the loo. So you can turn that off and the whole house still functions perfectly. So that's the first thing that we want to cover. Let's have a look at taps. So we've got two types. We've got the two individual ones. These are favoured in the United Kingdom, and the Americans like it as well. And then we've got this one here, which is a single outlet blender. Now in Europe, these aren't allowed because this is between 8 and 15 degrees. This is 60. Now our temperature is 37. So as soon as any water temperature rises above 40, 45, a lot of people will find that too hot and you can't alter it. You can then have the next scenario. The maximum temperature of here from a hot water cylinder is 60. Well, that's definitely scalding and extremely dangerous. And people do get scalded getting in and out of a bath or just putting their hands in the water. Because if you have a hot water cylinder, stored water has to be 60 degrees and the thermostat fitted 1/3 off the floor to maintain that temperature. But remember, at the top of the cylinder, it's not going to be 60, it's going to be 80, 95-ish. So that's extremely hot and dangerous. In Europe, we only have this type of tap, where we simply turn it up for the amount of flow, and we accent either the cold water or the hot water, but really very fast but more precise temperature. So if you just want to wash your hands or your face, this will get that right correct temperature sooner than you turning on a hot tap and a cold tap. And quite often I've got into wash hands, whether it's at the airport or in a hotel, and that water's absolutely scalding. And when I have raised that point, they just say, well, we know nothing, I'm just a receptionist, whatever. There are valves that will lower this temperature at that tap, and they have been fitted in restaurants. It's not difficult, it's not even expensive. They're only about 30, 40 pounds, and you could put them underneath that basin or the bath and make sure that that temperature never goes above 40 degrees, for example. The bath wants 50 degrees, and that's it. We don't need temperatures above that. Our boiler is generating 60-degree water. And on another chapter, I'll show you how to change that temperature, because combis don't need that 60-degree rule that has to be followed by the cylinder manufacturers, because we're not storing water. And this is a very big mistake, not just by installers, but end users. They just think 60 degrees and that's it. Well, if your boiler is up in the loft miles away, you probably will need 60 degrees because it'll cool down on the way to this tap. You'll be wasting a huge amount of water, which you're paying for, and obviously gas, because the minute you turn this tap on, that boiler's on full whack, full blast. So you're going to pay heavily for moving the boiler from near the taps to up in the loft or next door into the garage. So again, when it comes to a combi boiler, I'll show you how to adjust that on a couple of models. But basically, if you get the house uprated, etc., make sure that the installer only fits this type of valve, single outlet on the bath, the basin, and the kitchen sink. One more note here, we have a problem here with showers. And it may happen here, but very, very rarely. But showers, quite often, on a combi, it'll fire up and then immediately switch off. So you have to put a blender valve on the system and a non-return valve. And on Wednesday, I go through all the different scenarios, but more importantly, how to solve the problem. But as far as using the taps, these are bad news and these are good news. When it comes to showers, we can do an awful lot. Firstly, if you have an electric shower, do not alter anything. Don't change the rose, the hose, nothing until you've spoken to the technical department or sales department of whoever makes that electric shower, because obviously they're critical with the amount of flow that goes through them and the pressure that flow works at. So those people always talk to the factory. But if your water starts from a combi or cylinder in the cupboard and tanks in the loft, you can do an awful lot by changing the rose. And this is what a rose is, that's what we call it. This is a special one, it's got a little turbo inside, it's about 15-20 quid. So it's not bad. If you've got a poor flow, this may help. But the thing is, you can pop to a hardware store or one of the plumbing merchants and buy a couple of them and see which one suits you. So always the golden rule, if they've got small holes coming out here, you're going to have ball bearings hitting you. Large holes, a lovely umbrella flow. So you can pick and choose. None of them are a fortune, but it's worth experimenting. And normally this sits here at the end and then hooked on to whatever method, fixed or on a rail. What I'd like to talk about is an adapter, because the flow rate from a combi will be at least 10 litres per minute, maybe 12, hopefully 14 or even greater than that. And especially if you have an unvented cylinder, you could have some really serious flow, which is terrific. It's what you're paying for. But for a shower, that could mean ball bearings are hitting you, splashing all over the shower cubicle or around the bath, making everything wet. So what you can buy is an adapter. And this adapter is a flow rate of 8 litres, which is perfect for a shower. And what's more, teenagers hate them, because if your teenagers are like mine, they sit in the bathroom there for hours. God knows what they do. They must have waterproof books or something. I have no idea what goes on in there, but all I know is my water bill is up there. So fit an 8 litre flow rate. So all you've got to do is obviously remove that, put this adapter on. They're about £15 or so. Not an awful lot of money for peace and quiet, but it does save water. And then put this back onto it and then hook it back on. Let's put that on there. And then hook it back on, and then obviously you can twist around, etc. So this flow rate adapter is, as I said, 8 litres, perfect for everybody. I'd like to concentrate on the cold tap to the kitchen sink. Often we have huge problems with the water quality. And way back in the 70s, there was a world conference in Europe, right on the far eastern side, Poland, across Europe, up the top from Finland. Every single country sent a delegation. UK, obviously, America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. They all signed up to the water quality, the best that they could have in that area, because obviously it's going to be different halfway across the planet. Countries, for example, China, Russia, Africa, South America, they didn't come to that meeting because they either didn't want to or they couldn't afford to reach that high standard that we enjoy. The problem is many people change that water and put a filter to it, which is not allowed. Because if there is a problem, the water board is going to go down here and measure it. And they can analyse what's in it and what's missing. So if you put a filter that removes this bit or that bit or that bit, wrong. Don't listen to these salespeople. You want the purest water from the street. If there is something wrong, they want there to check it with next doors and etc., to see what's gone wrong. So you're not allowed to put a water softener into the cold tap here. You can to the hot, you can to the bath, you can to the basin colds, showers, washing machine, water softeners are brilliant those places, but strictly forbidden here. So don't let anybody else fool you, say, yeah, you can drink it, because soft water is a high salt content. And that's dangerous in a couple of places. First of all, young babies. You need to mix the food. Where do you get the water from? That tap. And then we cook it or not or whatever else. So we don't want a high concentration of salt because it's extremely dangerous to them. Also, if you take medication, same reason. Those tablets are designed with fresh water to help us swallow it. So we don't want soft water full of salt, and we don't want minerals that are supposed to be in there removed. Also, another thing is on the water side of it, as it were, is that we know that at least one tap is good. That if somebody says, oh, can I have a drink of water? You can say, yeah, kitchen sink, cold tap, not a problem. Fresh, cheap, that's why I look good at 90. I just drink tap water. That's good enough for me. I'm not buying it by the bottle. Forget it, it's not gonna happen. This is George, remember my boy? Etc. So hopefully I've given you some hints and tips. Keep away from the salespeople that say you must have this and this is poisonous and that's poisonous. Absolute rubbish. They just want to sell you something for a great deal of money.